One of the underlying problems in VR chat that nobody really talks about is drinking. Drinking is extremely normalized in VR chat, especially in social worlds. For a lot of people, it starts off as a way to be less awkward, calm anxiety, or just loosen up. And I can get that. I'm one of those fellas, love the brewski, right? And I love hanging out with the boys and having a good time. Um, but in VR, it feels different than real life, right? You're at home, you're safe, and there's no real consequences for anything, anxiety or anything like that. But when drinking becomes the default way to socialize, that's when it can turn unhealthy without people even realizing it. Just gonna say this, I'm not judging anyone that does this. It's insane how widespread this is. VRChat didn't create the issue, but it definitely makes it easier to ignore. And I think having conversations about this, just kind of bringing awareness to it, kind of help. I don't know. Um, this isn't an attack or judgment, just an observation on my short time that I've had in VR chat. So last night, I didn't have any plans. I didn't want to play Overwatch. I didn't want to play our rivals. I didn't want to play anything. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna hop on VR chat. I've played with my friends a couple times. It's fun. And if you've spent any time in VR chat, especially in the social or nightlife worlds, you already know what I'm talking about. Drinking is everywhere. It's normalized, it's joked about, and in a lot of spaces, it's expected. People don't usually reframe it as a problem. It's just more as like you're just hanging out, which I understand. I love hanging out with the fellas. Like I said, drinking some brewskis. And on the surface, it seems harmless, but VR changes the context in ways that we don't always think about, right? VR is immersive. When you're socializing in VR, you're not just watching a screen. Your brain is kind of changing things. Like you're experiencing this in real time. This is like face to face in a sense. Hearing voices like of people around, like if you were in a social setting, right, in real life. Now combine that with alcohol and something that lowers inhibition, reduces anxiety, and makes social interaction feel easier, which I completely understand. I feel the same way whenever I drink. For a lot of people, drinking becomes a shortcut to feeling comfortable in VR. And here's where things quietly change. At first, drinking is optional. You're just having a good time, talking to people, hanging out. Then it becomes common, and then it kind of becomes expected, right? Eventually, the default option, you're always drinking. Yeah, you don't drink to celebrate, you don't drink to socialize, and because VR chat is 24/7 accessible, right? There's no clear boundary. There's no last call. There's no bartender cutting you off. There's no needing to get home because you're already there. There's no external pressure to stop. So, like, you run into these people that, clearly they have had too much to drink, right? They can't form a sentence.
Cobweb, the spokesperson? I'm trying to play this game. Okay.
Ran into somebody that just fell down on the floor after they like were talking to somebody. And then have some people that are just playing like drinking games and you can hear it from other people just that they're already messed up.
I'm not doing that. Oh, you no.
Pussy.
Right. And they already don't have a, good head on their shoulders because of how much they've drank. And I want to be clear here. I'm not saying everyone who drinks in VR chat has a problem. I'm not saying VR chat causes the addiction. And I'm definitely not saying people are bad for participating, right? I get it. Trust me. I love to drink with my friends. I love the brewski whenever you're not supposed to have one, the bottomless mimosas, pink Moscato wine. Oh, love all that. But what I am saying is when a community normalizes something, it stops being questioned. And even whenever it may be unhealthy for some, most people are affected by this, are already somebody that struggles with things like anxiety, loneliness, and social confidence. So they feel like the only way that they can get there is by drinking. And I'm an awkward fella, right? I understand that completely. Um, and I've I've gotten to that point where drinking and helped with social confidence and anxiety and stuff like that. And I kind of use that as an outlet for those things. But where I have a problem with it is when this game I've barely played, I'm seeing these people, being taken advantage of or passing out because they've drank too much. VRChat is one of the most powerful social platforms. Powerful kind of is kind of saying that loosely, but it's like it's one of those platforms that you're connecting people face to face for those who normally wouldn't do that type of thing. So when drinking becomes the primary social lubricant, unintentionally creates a barrier for people who don't want to drink or can't. And more importantly, it can hide somebody or someone who is struggling because it all gets brushed off as just part of the culture, just part of hanging out. And this video isn't about banning anything or policing behavior, right? That's not really what it's all about. It's about awareness, it's recognizing patterns, and it's about making space for conversations that help the community and not tear it down. VR chat didn't create these issues, but it does kind of amplify them, right? There's got to be some sort like I don't want to call for moderation or anything like that, but it's like there's got to be some way to, you know, whenever somebody's clearly had too much to drink, just to kind of boot them off. I don't know. Maybe I'm just yapping. At the end of the day, this isn't about VR chat being bad or people doing something wrong. It's about recognizing when something becomes so normal that we stop questioning it. VRChat is one of the few places where people come to feel less alone. So it's worth asking whether the culture we build actually helps with that or just covers it up for a few hours. Awareness doesn't ruin communities, ignoring patterns does, right? If you notice this too, I'd generally like to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment and keep it respectful. And if you want more conversations about VRChat and the online culture, please subscribe, smash the like button. I'm planning on talking about more stuff around VR chat and other things that, may be interesting. Maybe I'll do one on Overwatch. I hope you guys enjoyed. See ya.